but an entrepreneur believes in making his own path, which becomes a guideline for other businessmen. Okay, so from my own understanding, I think that is the difference between an entrepreneur and a businessman.
Interesting. I think is it Ikechukwu that is speaking?
Not yet.
Okay, okay, after Ikechukwu, Chisom. So Chisom waits for Ikechukwu.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Igwe. I think an entrepreneur and a businessman are almost the same thing. Like an entrepreneur is basically a potential businessman. And an entrepreneur is kind of a startup that is going to progress finally into a businessman. So they're basically one and the same thing, but just that entrepreneurship is when you're still starting up the business. And then when the business has kicked in and started eating profits and every other thing, then you're now a businessman. That's my take on that.
Okay, interesting. So while Chisom comes on board, I want us to have one thing in mind. Let's be free to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Okay, so even if you're not saying the right thing, be free to say it. At the end of the day, we learn together. Okay, so Chisom, are you there?
Yeah. That businessman, he's a businessman. He doesn't just think about the present. He's not just looking at the present. Businessman most times is just looking at what profit he gets presently. But an entrepreneur is someone that looks into the process that will get to the future. So he's not just thinking about the present. He thinks about the present, but how the present can get to the future. That's one thing between an entrepreneur and business.
Interesting. All right. Mr. Elisha, Josephat, don't worry, just keep your hands down. Don't steal a moment for this cohort.
I'm coming.
Okay, so if you're not speaking, please kindly mute yourself. All right, thank you. Okay, so we have heard a lot of persons explain what an entrepreneur and a businessman is, right? In one way or the other, we are all right, okay? Someone clearly explained the fact that an entrepreneur is someone who identifies a problem, right? Takes the courage to create a solution out of that problem. He takes a high level of risk while doing that. And an entrepreneur is usually associated with innovation, and they are often creating new products and services from that same problem. A business person, a businessman, is someone who manages and grows a business. So all you do is just the normal day-to-day operation of the business. There is nothing wrong in being a businessman. There is nothing wrong being an entrepreneur. Now, a businessman is someone who, for example, you run a fast food business. Every morning you open the shop, you call your customers, hey, we are open today, come and buy from us. You hire someone to maybe become a chef. You just do the normal operations of that business, right? And you can grow. Maybe get another branch and all that. That's practically what a businessman is. And we have a lot of great business people, great businessmen, great businesswomen, especially in the Southeast, South region of Nigeria. Now, but the difference here is that an entrepreneur sees a problem. So when we say sees a problem, he can look at the restaurant business, factor out a problem in that market, and then pursue that problem to solve it, taking a high level of risk and driving innovation around it. So an example is the person can start by saying, oh, this place, we don't have enough restaurants here, so let me set up a restaurant. While setting up that restaurant, he can move on to say, a lot of people are coming here, and each time they come, they say they are not with their cash. They're not with cash. Is there a way they can make a transfer? And there was a situation where a lot of them are coming to say, oh, I left maybe my mobile phone and I cannot pay. What if I create a product and I call it a food bank or food money, where all our customers can deposit money in that wallet? If they come, even if they don't have their mobile phone or they don't have money currently in their accounts, they can use the money in their food wallet and eat. That is innovation. That's the difference between an entrepreneur and a businessman. Now, an entrepreneur will begin to see how to drive that as an innovation, to say, okay, this thing is now working for me. Wow, I'm not even making a lot of money from this, because anybody that wants to kind of use that service, we charge the person, let's say 10 naira, 20 naira for that service, and we are making a whole lot of money. What if we commercialize this and then make it open for other restaurants? So he wakes up the next day and then begin to push out to say, hey, do you run a restaurant? I have this solution that can help you to increase your sales. People can be able to put money in their bank, in your wallet, and each time they come, even if they have run out of money, they can always eat. Now, a lot of people will start using that service, and they will start paying him or her for that service. So he begins to make 2 naira. So anytime someone eats in another restaurant, he's making money. Now, you see the difference between an entrepreneur and a businessman. So that's why we said an entrepreneur is associated with innovation, risk-taking. So you know this has to do with risk. It doesn't mean that business is not about risk-taking, but an entrepreneur takes a high-level kind of risk. Now, it also engages in creation of new ventures. So the person is creating new products and services. You know, innovation drives new products and services, and innovation is about commercialization. I don't know if that restaurant example really explained to us the difference between an entrepreneur and a businessman. Can I get a confirmation? You can use the chat, or you can raise your hand and then, yeah, who is speaking? All right. You can use the chat to confirm that that's clear. Okay, cool. Yes, yes, yes. So why are we encouraging entrepreneurship? The reason we are encouraging entrepreneurship is that Entrepreneurship is going to help create new products and services, right? And when we have new products and services, it's going to help us solve a whole lot of problems across the world, right? Also, it's going to help us to create a lot of jobs, a lot of opportunities, and most times entrepreneurship is impact driven. In most cases, they are usually impact driven. So it's going to create a lot of impact and all that. Like we said, there is nothing wrong being a businessman, right? A businessman, just like someone said, is more of trading, and it's a fantastic experience. So we have a lot of billionaires who are businessmen. They are not practically entrepreneurs. They're just businessmen who understand how to run, manage, and scale their business, right? Okay, so the next thing we are going to look at will be, what's the difference? I heard someone mentioning something like, I'm a startup entrepreneur is more of someone who runs a startup. Why this person? So let's get into asking, what is the difference between a startup, a company, and, okay, let's just say a startup and a company. What's the difference between a startup and a company? Or what is, you can also maybe try to explain it from the aspect of what is that in terms of a startup and a business. Okay, so who is going to? Linda, anyone that is ready can go on.
All right, sir.
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Good
Can you hear
evening,
me?
Josephat. Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay. I'll answer the question in two ways. Let me begin with the conventional way for a learner. I think a startup is a company that is it's a business that is still progressing. They have not reached a certain threshold. It may be financial wise, it may be brand wise. So they still have some milestones to attend to. It's under the table. They still have some milestones to reach. While a company is an establishment that has clearly gained some grounds. Now, on the other hand, I'll also define a startup as a company that makes less than 100 million annually. Let's say in a year, you generate less than 100 million. And a company is a registered business that generates more than 100 million. Now,
Okay. I think it's clear, so that we can give others opportunity to speak. So what we are going to do, thank you so much for that insight. So to make it a bit easier, what's the difference between a startup and SME? Okay, what's the difference between a startup and an SME?
Can I speak?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, praise. You can speak.
So a startup is any venture that actually comes into a market with the sole aim to disrupt the market with a solution. That's one thing. And most times in this era, they are digital, like companies like they actually go digital, whereas an SME most times is offline, and like an SME or a company has already built this brand. They're already known by people, so they have this brand perception of which people perceive. You get it? And they're into business, whereas the startup, they're trying to penetrate, they're trying to also penetrate with a disruptive solution. Thank you.
Hello, can I say something?
Yes, the floor is yours.
Hello. Okay. I think that it's clear that like still in process of preparation, still waiting, still being evaluated. Why
someone here,
business?
Chisom?
No, I can't hear. I thought it was for me.
Yo,
So this is broken.
Can you hear me? Hello.
yeah, try to speak.
Okay. I said the startup is an idea that is still yet to be implemented. Like it's still yet to go into full implementation. It's still in the preparation, still incubated. A business is and rather an SME is already being implemented. Already profit is coming in through an SME, but most startups are yet to start getting profit. But in an SME or small business in general, it's already been implemented. So profit will be coming.
Okay, all right, interesting. So let's look at it from this point. A startup is a business. Flutterwave is called a startup, and they are worth over $1 billion. They are generating millions of dollars every single month, and they are still a startup. Google used to be a startup even while they were a billion-dollar company. Mark Zuckerberg was running a startup, which is Facebook, even while it was a billion-dollar company. So a startup is a business. An SME is a business, right? The difference, the core difference is that a startup is designed to grow very fast. A startup is a kind of business that is designed to grow very fast, right? An SME is still a business, but SMEs are not designed, they are not wired to grow very fast. So that's the core difference between a startup and an SME, right? There are other differences that you can point out. Probably someone can begin to say that a startup leverages, in most cases, leverages technology, but I can always question that because, technology is a core when it comes to scalability. So for you to drive your business and scale, you are likely going to leverage technology, but you can also deploy other strategies for you to scale that is not practically or necessarily technology. So that is why a startup is any business that is designed, wired to grow and scale very fast. So an SME is that business that they make profits, they have a whole lot of money and all that, but they are not growing fast, right? They are not designed to grow very fast. Things like local businesses and even the big businesses you see are not startups. They are more of kind of businesses. They could be large businesses, but they are not really a startup. Let's make it a bit practical. Flutterwave started about 5 years ago, and we have banks, traditional banks, that started 50 years ago, but Flutterwave is now worth way much more than most of these businesses in terms of valuation, just in 5 years. Why another business has been there for the past 20 years, for the past 50 years, and within 3 years, another business is growing very fast more than you, right? So And it will surprise you that Flutterwave is worth more than about 6 banks combined that even started 20 years ahead of them. You saw when Paystack was acquired. Paystack was acquired for about $150 million to $200 million by Stripe. And as at then, Paystack was valued more than 3 banks combined. I think I don't want to quote, so I don't make a mistake, but I know either Keystone combined some other banks, 3 of them, it was worth more than them, right? So you now see just a 4-year-old business that is now becoming bigger than a company that has been there for a long, long time, okay? Then another thing I want to also emphasize is that a startup is designed to do 2 important things. A startup is designed to search for a repeatable and a scalable business model. A repeatable and a scalable business model. So they are searching for a repeatable and a scalable business model. Why a company executes? So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that a startup is searching for that model that is scalable, means that if they're able to get 100 today, they can get 1,000 tomorrow, they can get 10,000 the next day, they can get 1 million, they can get 10 million, they can get 50 million. So they are in search for a repeatable and a scalable business model. So that's scalability. Repeatable here means that if they do it today, it works, do it tomorrow, it works, do it next tomorrow, it works. Now, highlight the word in search. What it means is that running a startup is a process, right, which entails searching. You are searching. What are you searching for? A business model that is scalable and that is repeatable. The big companies execute. They have been able to find the model and they are now executing on that model. Now, when they're executing, they tend to remove their mind from other things and they are focused on execution. That is why in most cases, they are not usually innovative. And most startups can come and disrupt them. So you see startups that are even being disrupted by other startups, right? We can see companies like Nokia, right, that are being disrupted by other phone companies. We can see companies like Blockbuster that was disrupted by people like Netflix, right? So these guys are big companies. We can also see people, I don't really know if these guys were truly disrupted by, what's your name? Airbnb. So Airbnb, Craigslist is kind of an online listing platform, and Airbnb came on board and was trying to disrupt that space, right? So when you look at most of these guys, they can be a company, and because they are not focused on innovation, other startups can come and disrupt them, right? So that's kind of the difference between a startup and an SME. Okay, so let's also move on to ask, what do you think an entrepreneur needs, right? For you to be an entrepreneur today, just 3 things. What are the 3 things you think an entrepreneur needs for you to really build a successful business as an entrepreneur?
Okay, Praise, unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. One of the first things, okay, first things that I consider paramount for an entrepreneur to have is one, a mentor, like mentorship, and like well-grounded education in how to scale the entrepreneurship hurdle. That's one. Two, being innovative, being very innovative. Three, having the ability to communicate the idea and the solution they are creating in order to also get people on board, even when it comes to raising funds in order to scale.
Interesting.
And additionally, an entrepreneur needs to have this leading ability, how to coordinate and create a system, a structure that will run even without the active presence.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Okay, you meet yourself.
Okay. The three things that I think an entrepreneur needs is number one, the ability to take a risk, the ability to take high risk. Number two, innovation, being innovative. And then,
you go now.
number three,
I'm telling you.
capital. Did you hear me?
You said the third one is what? You say take high risk,
capital,
innovation.
and capital.
So what do you mean by capital?
Like finance.
What do you mean by finance? Do you mean
finance?
He needs to have money?
Not like he needs to have the money, like it has to be available for him.
Now, are you saying that an entrepreneur should know how to raise funds?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. You should know how to raise funds, either by investment or loans, to raise the fund. The capital is, of course, you cannot start a business in the air. You need capital to put some things in place for your ideas to start.
Interesting.
Okay, Chisom.
Okay, entrepreneur should have is innovative.
Chisom, your mic, I don't know.
I think it's
Can you try to look at it?
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
I think I can hear you now.
Okay. Three things I think entrepreneurs should have.
Sorry, we can't really hear you. Okay, so maybe try to move to a place where you have better network, and then. So who is next?
Yeah, Mira. Mira, unmute yourself.
All right. I think one of the things an entrepreneur needs to build a successful business. Okay, first of all, I think the first thing is to find out finding out an idea that will solve a problem. First of all, he needs an idea that can solve a problem, and then I think another thing is he needs to be innovative, just like someone said, creative, and be able to like sell out himself, something like that. And also, I think the last thing I think that an entrepreneur needs is also I think he needs a team of people that actually can identify with his skills. Something like that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So thank you so much. So we have few other persons whose hands are up. Then I want to now begin to take it a bit further to ask, what is the difference between a startup founder, a CEO, and an entrepreneur?
Okay, praise.
CEO. You know, people think CEO is a title boss, but no, CEO is just the chief executive officer, someone who is in charge of how the company is faring. You get, like, if you can watch closely, you see currently now the CEO of PEF, Tony Lumini's foundation, is a lady. You get, it's not Mr. Tony Lumini. You get, and currently the CEO of UBA is not Mr. Tony Lumini. You get it. So a CEO is just someone who actually oversee and make sure that is running, put things in place, put other leadership position in place to make sure that things are running well, create that, make sure that that structure and that system is working well. Then a startup founder, of course, we know what a startup is. So a startup founder might be a person or more than a person, group of people that really like started to solve a problem, like a group of people that started solving a problem, you know, to create solutions in a specific market and industry. Then what was the other one you said?
Entrepreneur.
Hello?
CEO, startup founder, and an entrepreneur.
Hello. Okay, an entrepreneur. Would they explain it? Like, you know, okay. So it's mainly the entrepreneur, as you've already enlightened us about it. An entrepreneur is one who is ready to take risks and go into creating disruptive solutions to problems in an industry or a market in order to create impact, and also is ready to accept the risk and profit that comes out from it. So that's it for the book, for the thread.
Okay, so before you jump out, I now want to ask you, when we are asking, what does an entrepreneur really need? Now, should we ask that, or should we say, what does a CEO really need? So, is a CEO an entrepreneur? I need us to be kind of, maybe make it clearer. Are you saying a CEO is also an entrepreneur? Are you saying a startup founder is also an entrepreneur? Are you saying an entrepreneur is a CEO, can be a CEO? Can you kind of, when you're explaining, can you kind of give us, I don't want you to explain it like take time, but I want you to give us clear instance between all of them.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. A CEO, I would say that a CEO is not an entrepreneur, but to a very large extent, a CEO should have a very big quality of an entrepreneur. Now, an entrepreneur, as we have already defined, comes up with the idea, disruptiveness, and organize, you know, like, you know, to kickstart.
Okay.
A CEO might be someone who is in charge, just like a president. We have.
So, are you saying CEO is more of leadership?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I want us to kind of bring emphasis and also clarity to it. So, you're saying a CEO can be an entrepreneur, but he or she is more of a leader, right? So he must exhibit leadership qualities beyond entrepreneurship kind of stuff.
Yes,
okay, yeah. So what about startup founder?
Which also connotes startup founders, these are either group of people or a person that that actually goes into and kickstarts the
venture, the business. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let's hear from Marvelous.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, this question is just like asking difference between primates and mammals, and they start telling you that mammals are animals with backbones that can stand upright and all of that. Then at the end of the day, you find out that all mammals are primates and all primates are not mammals. So now, a CEO, an entrepreneur, and a startup founder, to me, they are used interchangeably. A startup founder can be a CEO and is also an entrepreneur.
Okay.
But a CEO cannot be. Not all CEOs are startup founders.
Okay.
That is to say, a startup founder is someone. A startup founder is the one who who bring the best of that business. Who is the mind, who is the mastermind, the idea, the conceiver of a particular business or an innovation, the one who thinks around the business, who come across it, who ideates the whole process of that particular business and brings it to life. A CEO is now the person that is now overseeing the operations of that particular business, maybe managing other staff, seeing how these things operate. So sometimes if a startup founder can be in a business, but will not be the CEO of that particular business. Because while he might be busy trying to see how to create some innovation, you will not direct someone to say, okay, see, I want you to control the whole operation of this particular business. Let it be fluent. While I'm thinking of innovative ideas on how it will be, how this particular business will move. So not all CEOs are startup founders, but all startup founders can be a CEO if they want to. You understand? Unless they want to limit their role and look into other. It's because you can't carry all the load on yourself.
So are all CEOs entrepreneurs?
Sorry?
Are all CEOs?
Yes, not all CEOs. No, not all CEOs are entrepreneurs. Not all CEOs are entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are people who run their business, that own something that they are running. And without anybody, they can stand alone running that particular business and bring people to come into work. But CEO, you must be appointed. Without an entrepreneur, a CEO cannot come in. So that is it. Without an entrepreneur, a CEO cannot come in. An entrepreneur builds CEO, brings about a CEO into a business. So that's why I said a startup founder is an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a startup. It can be also be a startup founder.
All right, thank you for that. So we are going to take the last person, Ikechukwu Obawike. Yeah, Ikechukwu, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Please go ahead.
Okay, on your last question, the difference between a CEO, a startup founder, and an entrepreneur. I think it's all about titles. I think a startup founder is someone that has an idea of an innovative business. You know, from what you've explained so far this evening, you've made us. I don't have a question. I think I'll ask my question maybe later when your questions comes in. But from your explanations, a startup is not just a normal business. It's a business that is set to grow very fast. That's from what you said earlier. So when you have that kind of idea, you're a startup and start working on it, you're a startup founder. And then the processes that you're going through, you know, in order to get that business working is what makes you an entrepreneur. And then probably when you now have a team that you're working with, virtually you now become a CEO. So I think it's intertwined this way, that when you have the idea, you're a startup founder. When you're implementing those ideas, that's entrepreneurship. When you're taking the risk behind these ideas and setting up the business, that's entrepreneurship. Then when you have a team that you're working with that you now oversee, you become a CEO. That's how I see it.
Okay, beautiful. So let me try to bring most of this into perspective to say that we are all correct, right? A CEO, it's kind of a responsibility to lead an organization, right? So it's a title. So the person who leads the organization, which is the highest ranking executive in an organization, in a venture, is known as a CEO. So it's a leadership position. The person is responsible for leading the organization. So it's a title. A startup founder is not a title. A startup founder comes as a result of an action, and that action entails a startup founder is not really the person who came up with the idea, right? A startup founder can be the person who comes up with the idea, but not only when you come up with the idea, you become a startup founder. A startup founder is anyone, right, who is part of the initiation process of that startup. The person who has the idea might have the idea and maybe talk to his friends and say, hey, guy, come and join me and let's build this. The idea has been created, maybe the plan has been created, and then you bring in someone who might be an engineer, who might build your website. The person becomes a co-founder, what we call co-founder. So the person becomes a startup founder too. So anyone who is part of the formation of that business, the initial formation of that business, who is also behind the conception of that startup or that business, is part of, it's what we call a startup founder. Not just unnecessarily the person who came up with the idea, right? Other persons can become startup founders by kind of being part of it. Let me give you an example when it comes to Rat 5. So Rat 5 was like, oh, we are friends and we are like, guy, let's build something together. So we came together before we even formed the idea. So no one can say you have the idea, because we have interests in similar stuff. We have been friends and we are like, guys, let's just sit out and then maybe start something, right? So we never knew what the idea is. We formed as a team and then we now came up. So that makes everyone a startup founder, part of the founding team, which is what we call co-founders. Okay, so an entrepreneur, like we said, now has to do with the person who exhibits that entrepreneurship mindset, who approach certain things through innovation, creating more businesses, creating more products and services within that. So a CEO can be an entrepreneur, a startup founder can be an entrepreneur, but not all startup founders are entrepreneurs. So you can have startup founders who are not really entrepreneurs, who might just be an accountant, right? An accountant who is a professional, okay? So you can have a professional who wants to start, who came up with an idea and called some other persons and brought in some entrepreneurs who also try to drive innovation and all that. Okay, so I think we all nailed that point. Okay, so we are going to be summarizing for today. The essence of this section is practically for us to have insights, gain insight around most of these terminologies, around these concepts, so that most of us will say, oh, I'm a startup because I'm just starting. You're not a startup. You are not a startup because you are just starting. So let me look at the charts. I think there's a question there. So you are not a startup because you are just starting. And most times people call businesses startup, right? So with you being here, you clearly understand the difference between an SME, a normal local business, a small business, a medium scale business, a large business, and a startup. You know the difference. So, but most times people say, hey, I run a startup, I run a startup. Once you don't run a business that is designed to grow very fast. And when we say designed to grow very fast, there is also what we mean by growing fast. Let me give you a practical example. There's something we call margin. Okay, so if the cost of servicing a new customer, right? If there's an additional cost attached to servicing a new customer, which is almost equal, means that business is not scaling. So you must come up with strategies that can help you to be able to reduce the cost of servicing additional customer. So what do I mean by that? So let's say you make hair or you run a barber salon. Now, as a barber, you can only cut one person's hair at a time. So no matter how you want to do it, you can't scale that business. So automatically that business is not scalable. Unless you deploy strategies, models that can help you scale. So practically, have you seen why we say that a barber salon is a small business, it's an SME? But you can now design it in a way for you to scale very fast, right? If you're able to do that, you can transform it from being an SME into being a startup. So what if you start an online barber salon where people can book to cut their hair online and you match them to any nearby salon? What this means is that you can get to 50 million people because you can move that business to Indonesia, you can move it to China, you can move it to anywhere. That now makes it scalable. So it is designed to grow very fast. We are not saying, please pay attention, startups are hard. Why? Because it entails a whole lot of risk. It is easier to run a barber salon and you manage one salon and be making your small money than you trying to grow very fast and get to Lagos, get to Enugu and all that. It entails a whole lot of risk. Have you seen why a lot of startups fail, unlike SMEs? Right? I hope it's making a little sense. So let me get to the chat box and look at some of the questions. So someone asks, must the CEO have the largest share of the business? No. A CEO must not even have a share. A CEO can just be an employee. You can hire a CEO, pay the person. The person might not even have anything to do with the business, right? So that's also what makes it. A CEO is just someone you can appoint. It's an appointment. Oh, we believe you can lead this company, lead. And we'll pay you. So it could be someone you hired and you pay the person's salary every month and the person becomes a CEO. Okay, I hope that's clear. Can someone with the least amount of share be elected? Yes, the person might not even have a share in the company and you elected CEO, right? So absolutely yes. Lastly, can the company owner with the highest share not be in the executive board? If you said with the largest share not be, if you already have a share, so okay, when you say executive board, okay, I think I'm getting what you're asking now. So when you say executive board, are you saying yes, you can be a non-executive member, right? You can bring in capital and you can be a kind of a non-executive financial partner who is bringing in a lot of money and you have about 70% of the equity and all that. But you're asking, can depend. Yes, you can have the high share and not be part of executive board. But when you say executive board, I want us to bring emphasis to that, because there could be non-executive members, right, who are part of the board, right, who are part of the business. So I just want to bring clarity to that, who are part of the business, but they are non-executive. So I believe that what you mean by non-executive happens to be people who are not part of the day-to-day activities of the business. Yes, you can have the highest share and you are not part of the day-to-day activities. You might be bringing in the largest capital, the largest fund and money into the business, and you are not. So someone said, please, can you shed more light in the area of what an entrepreneur needs to start a proper business? Okay, we cannot exhaust that. An entrepreneur needs a whole lot of things, right? Everything just like an investor. Yes, absolutely, just like an investor. So someone can be an investor who has a high share of the company and not part of the day-to-day running of that business. Yes. So an entrepreneur needs a whole lot of stuff to be an entrepreneur, right? But what we now need to look at will be, what are the most important things? For me, how I want to look at it is, first, I want to say entrepreneurship is hard. I want to be honest to say it is hard, it is tough. The difference here is that you are taking a path where your friends will look at you and say, are you out of your mind? Do you know what you are doing? Remember the difference between a businessman and an entrepreneur, right? So a businessman, you can a little bit relate it to trading, but remember, trading is the art of buying and selling, right? Now, an entrepreneur, when you say what you need, right, is a whole lot. We cannot exhaust it. For example, grit, G-R-I-T, is one of the most important things that an entrepreneur needs. Let me tell you, one of the reasons why most startups fail, or arguably the major reason why most startups fail, is because they give up on their startups. So that is where grit, perseverance comes to play, right? So there are a lot of things, but you see this, entrepreneurship is not something you do now, you start, or startup is not something you start now and it's bed of roses, right? So it comes with a whole lot of issues. And if you're not getting it right, you get frustrated. And that is now what is going to bring us to the summary of this conversation. As an entrepreneur, what you need to do, or let me talk about what are the things you don't need to do. Number one, never jump into solving a problem that you don't love in the first place. It's just like you dating someone you know you don't love. Don't get into a problem, trying to solve a problem that you don't love. You must fall in love with the problem, right? That is critical. That is very, very important. So if you did not clearly get certain things, you need to get this very clear. You must love the problem. Also, you must love the people who have that problem. Meaning you must love the customers you are serving. Let's be practical. If you don't love babies happens to be the customers, for example, okay? Let's say you don't love babies. I'll get to that. There's a question I want to ask. So let's say you don't love babies and you are creating a product for babies, or you're trying to solve a problem for babies. By the time you do that first, second, third, fourth year, you are going to get tired of the whole thing. And if challenge comes, if issues arise, you will just run away. Why? Because you don't even love the problem at the first place. So make sure you love the problem. Make sure you fall in love with the problem. And that is why they say, if you're going to start anything, start with something you love, something that comes internally. Usually it could be something that you have personally experienced, right? So that even when you don't have the zeal, the motivation to wake up and do that stuff, you continue doing it. Then also do something that solve a problem for the people that you love, right? Meaning the customers themselves. Do you love them? Do you want to see them every day? If you cannot see them every day, just forget about it. Solve a problem that you love and approach customers that you truly love, right? Because you're going to be working on your startup for years if you're going to build a sustainable and successful business, right? Now, the next thing is, are you willing? Are you willing to walk in the dark? Are you willing to walk in tough times, in tough moments, all alone? When people can say, guy, you are stupid though. Let me give you an example. When we started Rap 5 Tech Hub, we used to pay ourselves 5,000 naira. And that 5,000 naira used to be our transport money. So most times we use leg, my co-founder will use leg, come out, and then and that was how we're building gradually. A lot of people say, you are stupid. Friends and families will tell you, it seems you are cursed. You are done with school and you cannot do anything for yourself. What is this thing that you are doing that you don't? Now, that is you walking alone in the dark. It is not, what's it called? It's kind of making a tough, unpopular decision. It is normal for you to finish school and then for you to go and start working in a bank. Go and look for a job. But imagine you finish school and you start doing certain things, people are asking, are you stupid? Now remember, we are not talking about business now. We are talking about entrepreneurship. We are not talking about businessman. Maybe you have 1 million, you start importing shoes and then you trade those shoes. So defaultly, you are going to have money, right? Because you are trading, you make money and all that. Now imagine you embark on a high level risk, trying to build a business that even as you're generating revenue, the money is getting into the business, so you don't even have enough for you to keep moving. So what will keep you moving in that situation? If you don't love the problem that you are solving and the people you are solving it for, you will definitely give up. Remember that entrepreneurship is about innovation, creating new products and services. So you must love the problem and you must love the people that are having that problem for you to really and truly innovate. And even when you don't have money, you can keep building and you can keep pivoting, iterating until you get to the right path. Like I said, we're paying ourselves about 5,000 naira. And people are like, are you stupid? And we had opportunities where some persons will not come and tell you, let me pay you 400,000 naira. And you look at it, you look at your life, look at yourself, 5,000 naira, 400,000. You look at yourself, I don't even know where the next meal is going to come from. Do I need to keep doing this thing, or should I? You remember that your mom or your dad will soon call you for money. and you are still going to tell them the same story you have been telling them for months, what on earth will make you to continue on that journey, on that path, if you don't love that problem that you are trying to solve? So that is also how it is when we are in a relationship, we are dating. So what does it mean? You can never take certain sacrifices if you don't truly love the person. So I want to bring it into this context so that we can truly understand what it means to be an entrepreneur. At some point, as we're moving, yeah, you move from 5,000 to 10,000. Then you move from, even some people will say you are no longer their friends and all that. People, you lose a whole lot of friends because people don't understand what you are doing. People don't even, you are looking like a fool and all that. So you're going to lose a lot of friends. So at some point, you begin to make 20,000, you begin to make 15,000. And most times we have money in the organization, right? But you don't have your personal money. We'll still come to that, right? You don't have your personal money because you are building. Now, at some point, when we had our first ₦1 million project, wow. And it was as if you're going to have money. And sincerely speaking, you don't still have money because there are a lot of things you need to use that money to do, to build, to create new products and services, to invest into the business, and before you know it, you don't even have money. But let's not get to that. So you are going to walk in the dark. You are going to lose a lot of friends. A lot of people are going to say you are stupid. A lot of people are going to see that you are making unpopular decisions, right? And most times you are also going to feel lonely. All right.
Hello, sir. Your network is breaking. Your voice is breaking. I don't know if it's from me.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I don't know if we got at the point where I was trying to explain some of the things that make up an entrepreneur. So I mentioned you must love the problem, you must love the customers, the people who are facing that problem. You must be willing to walk alone in the dark and take tough, unpopular decisions, right? You're also going to consider where are you getting your advice from, right? A lot of people are going to tell you, do it this way, do it that way. You know, each time you are not feeling strong, everybody becomes a doctor. Everyone will not turn into a doctor. So where do you get your advice from, right? Are you getting your advice from your friends, from social media? So when I say social media, for example, you might see a lot of people saying, hey, at the end of the day, it doesn't really mean what it means. Entrepreneurship is not so easy, right? So people might express themselves to say, hey, we have won this contract. Hey, we have done this. That does not really mean that everything is kind of rosy for everyone, okay? So where do you get your advice? An entrepreneur is usually careful where you get your advice from, right? People who are not even running a business will come and be telling you, do it this way, do it that way, and all that, okay? So another important thing is that as an entrepreneur, you need to focus on your customers, right? You need to focus on customers and not investors. So who are you building for? Are you building for customers or are you building for investors? The people that are going to make you or help you to be successful happens to be customers and not investors. You know, most times we start a business and we start looking for money rather than start a business and start looking for customers. We believe that it is the investor that will make us succeed, not understanding that it is the customer that will make us succeed. So this would help us to get to what some of the conversations we had during some of the mentors brought into play during the first cohort. So there is a platform called Startup Graveyard. So Linda can share the link on the group or on our WhatsApp group so that you can go and visit it. So while she's typing it, you can go on the link, Startup Graveyard. You can go and see some of the businesses that have died, right, in the past, and ask yourself what really killed them, right? What really killed them? Why did they die? And you see them raise $50 million, $100 million, $1 million, and most of us are busy saying, oh, I need money, I need money, I need money. Truth be told, it might not be money that will make you successful, right? So who exactly are you building for? Are you building for customers? Are you building for investors? You must build for customers because the true investors are customers, okay? So that also explains the fact, are you putting capital first or are you putting execution first? So you must put execution first before capital. So most people start a business and say, oh, if not of money, I cannot do anything I want to do, rather than trying to execute, okay? So we are going to also kind of explain most of these things. The essence of today is just for us to get to have a conversation around startup, around entrepreneurship, around business, understand some of the basic concepts and all that, okay? Get to understand what are the things that we really need to kind of understand as a startup founder or as a CEO or as an entrepreneur, right? So like we said, you must be problem driven. The first thing you need to look at is problem. What problem are you solving? Forget the solution, right? What problem are you solving? Who is facing this problem? And you go and talk to those people. Make sure you talk to them. So what we are going to do very quickly, I'm going to ask, while we summarize, I'm going to ask, what is the difference between a customer and a user? What is the difference between a customer and a user? Then, while you explain that, I want you to clearly tell us what is the problem you are solving or your business is designed to solve.
Okay, so can I speak? Hello, can I speak?
Yes, you can.
Okay, okay. So Igwe asked a question, the difference between a customer and a user. A customer is someone who has already known, trusted, someone who has already known, liked, and trusted a brand. That means they are loyal individuals to that certain brand. It's more like, let's say, for instance, I want to make use of an earphone. I want to buy an earphone, like a wired earphone. I go for Oraimo, because I've known Oraimo, like I've come to like them and also trust them in order to give me my production so I can hear my piano line as a pianist. Okay. Then, like that's actually for customers. So even when I want to buy an earphone, I also come to them. So it's more like repeated people who like just come to you whenever they need your service or your product. That's for the customer. Then for the user, there are more people. Okay, let's see how this works. Let's test it. You know, most times the user can be likened to better users. People who give you feedback. You get do customers give feedback, but users mainly they just want to test and see how the thing is going. Then they can transition to become customers. You get it? So that's what I'll say. Then also, thank you for the chance to really just do an elevator pitch of.
Okay, before you get to that, so remember, yes, I said I'm not asking you to do an elevator pitch. What I said is just tell us the problem that your business is designed to solve. I'm not asking you the solution. I'm not asking you what your business does. What I'm asking you, but we'll get to that. I will tell you when to go ahead. So I'm not asking you what is your elevator pitch. I'm not asking you what does your, I don't care what your business does. I don't want to hear that we do this, we produce you. I'm not interested in what you do. What I'm interested is, what is the problem you are solving, right? So that's what I am asking for, right? But before Praise gets to that, let me just try to explain the concept of user and customer. A customer is anyone who pays for your products and services. Anyone who pays. A user, by the word user, is anyone who uses your products. So they might not pay, right? So in most cases, I turn it to say that a user is someone who loves your products so much, but they are not willing enough to pay. I'm giving an example now. A customer is someone who loves your products and they are willing to pay. Okay, so let's give an example. An example is Indomie. The users happens to be the baby. The customer happens to be the mother. The person who is paying for that product is a customer. There could be someone using it. Let me also give you another example. If you work in an office and you are the accountant, your company goes and buy a product, which is your CEO now buys an accounting solution and give it to you as an accountant. You, the accountant, can be, at this point, is the user. Your CEO who paid is a customer. In most cases, the accountant can be the customer who ends up paying too and also using it, right? But in context, anyone who pays for your product is a customer, right? Why the person who uses the product, right? What it means here is that a customer might not end up being a user, and a user might still not be a customer, but you can still have a user who is a customer who uses it, who pays and uses that product. So in that case, the person is a customer and also a user of that product. I hope that explains that. So I'm going to ask Igwe Praise to take the lead and tell us the problem your business is looking at. So not solving the problem you are looking at, you are currently addressing.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Having noticed that in the video and movie streaming industry, people, even after subscribing by making a periodic payment, most times monthly payment, still have to spend heavily on cellular data to stream their movies in the highest quality is really a big problem. And this has shied away many people from subscribing. That's why people prefer watching their favorites on pirated content like platforms. You get it? And this is no good. This is a breach of content, copyright, and creation. So that is the problem we are addressing by coming up with a technology that will
we are not interested in your technology.
Need for customers to
leave your technology. We don't need your technology. What we need is the problem.
Yes, sir.
All right, so you are saying that data is expensive. Most people cannot afford to have regular data to stream on their favorite streaming platforms.
doing.
All right. Beautiful.
Yes, even after making subscriptions like payments.
Okay, cool. Who is next? While we summarize. Marvelous, Mira, Ikechukwu, Oluchi. Oluchi has not said anything since today. Joseph. Yeah, Marvelous. Go ahead.
All right. The problem I'm solving, it's in the events management industry, like the one phase method that organizers passes through when trying to host events. And we found out that there's a lot of problem when it comes to use of paper programs. There are problems when it comes to sales of event tickets. That's what I'm listing them out now. The problem that organizers faces, which is making programs, paper programs for their events, is more expensive and a lot of typos are involved. Organizers, events that require sales of tickets, the organizers find it difficult to look for platforms that are reliable to sell their tickets, and event attendees don't always trust most platforms in putting their cards and other things, and sometimes the whole process becomes difficult. Then in terms of when, as an organizer, when you want to hold an event, how do you come across getting event hosts to know the right venue that is
but we'll still get to
event.
this. Thank you so much, Marvelous. But we'll still get to this to clearly refine and define our problem statement. Okay. At some point, we are going to clearly say this is what the problem is. Okay. So let's give opportunity to Ikechukwu to share his. Can someone hear me? Can you hear me? I said, let's give, I think my network. So we're rounding up. Ikechukwu is raising his hand. Ikechukwu, go ahead. So we summarize and close for today.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. The problem I want to solve is actually two-faced. The first one is industrialization, because I'm into the footwear industry and the production process down here is a little bit crude. They lack a lot of machines and technical know-how. So I want to introduce some technicality in industrialization into the process, and then also produce quality shoes for the customers, so that people can actually say, yeah, this was made in Nigeria, this is made in Aba, and it can stand the test of time against any test of quality, against any shoe anywhere, any footwear anywhere. So that's the two problems I'm trying to solve with my own business.
All right. Thank you so much, Ikechukwu.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so while we summarize for today, we are actually in progress and we're making progress. When we talk about problem, it needs to be very clear. I'm not asking whether you want to create the best shoes. I'm not asking whether, so we are just looking at the problem, and it should be very clear. it should be straight to the point, okay? But we will still get to that. So let me give you an example with a company that I love so much. I've been able to look at their model and I'm really inspired by what they do, Airbnb. So Airbnb, as we know, I hope we know Airbnb, okay? So Airbnb is kind of an alternative to hotels, right? So they say book rooms with locals rather than hotels. So what they do is that they provide an online platform, right? They provide an online platform where users can rent out their space to host travelers. So let's say you live in a flat and you have one room vacant. Someone might be coming into your city and you say, oh, let me put this space on Airbnb. Instead of the person going to a hotel, the person can come to your place. I just want to explain this for those of us who might be on this call and you don't really know about Airbnb, okay? But what I want to do is to explain to you the problem, right? So what is said is, and anytime you're explaining your problem, people should be nodding their heads. People should be saying, yes, it's true. And you're not, it's just a straight to the point. It's something you need to work on, okay? So the assignment and task for us for today, tomorrow, is for us to go and clearly define what our problem is, right? In a very clear, it shouldn't be more than 3, right? It can be 1, but it shouldn't be more than 3. So let me give you an example with Airbnb. Airbnb says that price is an important concern for customers booking travel online. Price is an important concern for customers booking travel online. So what it means is that anyone who is booking for traveling online is concerned about the price. Have you seen how clear that statement is? Then they now said that hotels leave you disconnected from the city and its culture. So what does it mean? When you lodge in a hotel, you are disconnected from the culture of that city. It's just like you going to a country where you are new and you just lodge in a hotel. And remember, that's why I wanted to give you insight of what Airbnb does. So imagine you go to a local, someone who lives somewhere in the city. You can even meet the children. You can learn the language. They might tell you, oh, welcome. Oh, don't worry, we'll teach you the language. Oh, don't worry, we'll show you the food that you are connecting with the culture and people, right? I don't want you to come and start talking about, oh, this idea is not good. First of all, you must be able to have a very clear problem. So do you agree with Airbnb that price is an important concern for customers booking travel online? Do you agree with them that hotels leave you disconnected from the city and its culture? Then the last problem statement for them is that no easy way exists to book a room with a local or become a host. So it's not easy for you to book a room with a local. So you just book it, not a hotel now. To book, who they call locals are people who live in that city that want to rent their space, who happens to be the host. So there's no easy way for you to book a room with a local or become a host. So these are the 3 clear problem statements, and it's very clear, very concise. And when you look at it, you will agree. They're not telling a lot of stories. They're making it very plain, very clear. Anybody who reads it can run with it and clearly understand it, right? So that will be the next thing that is what we now need to begin to look at when we are creating a solution, because a problem can be solved in multiple ways, right? A problem might be solved in multiple ways. So we also have problems, we also have needs, right? We also have expectations and all that, but we'll still get to that. But all we need you to do is to clearly put your problem statement in a way that someone can truly understand the pain points that you are trying to solve. Okay, so thank you everyone for being on this call. And hopefully we are going to be bringing in some of our mentors and also our facilitators to begin to shed more light in all the conversation we are going to be having. So today was for us to have a heart-to-heart conversation, talking about entrepreneurship, talking about startup, talking about what it entails and how we should approach entrepreneurship by focusing on problems that we truly love and addressing those problems for the customers we truly love, because we're going to be doing that over and over and over and over, right? So thank you so much. I am going to open for the next 1-2 minutes for us to ask any question. Yes, Ikechukwu, please go ahead.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. I think this evening I just understood what a startup means, and I think I've been using the term wrongly for some time now. So, but my question is, what does a startup grow into? Like, does he ever stop being a startup? What does it grow into? That's my question.
Okay, yeah, I like the fact that, sorry, I had a call. So I like the fact that you mentioned that you have been using it wrongly. Okay, like I said, we must be open to learn. Even while on this conversation, I've also learned from other persons. Okay, and that's what truly makes us real entrepreneurs, to be open to learn, unlearn and relearn. Okay, so I will keep emphasizing on this, because most times we are so hard on ourselves that you don't want to be like, oh, you are learning from somebody or something. So for me here, I'm so much learning from each and every one of us. So a startup grows into a company, right? So remember that a business can also be a company. Don't get it twisted. Once you register your business, you can register it into a limited liability company. So by default, it's a company on its own, right? So here, what we are trying to say is that there are differences between a startup and actually a company. Yes, at some point, a company will now become kind of, there is now a point where the company cannot become so big, right, that we cannot define it and call it a company. But at that point, when it is still growing rapidly, we can focus on it as a startup. There is also a benchmark for a startup, and most times it runs in billions of dollars. I don't know the exact numbers, right? So it runs in billions of dollars. So let me, like, the example here I gave is that how I look at it is the fact that a startup searches why a company executes. A startup is searching for a repeatable and a scalable business model. Why a company executes its model, meaning they have been able to find, they have found the model and they are focused on executing on it. Why a startup is searching for a repeatable and a scalable business model, right? And in most cases, a startup will grow and become a company. So when we say a startup, please, I don't want us to get it wrong. A startup can be a newly formed venture today, which is growing at a high pace, innovation, scaling rapidly, and all that, kind of driving a lot of business model, acquiring a lot of customers, disrupting innovation at that point, right? Now, but at some point, it will now grow to a kind of a matured human being, let's put it that way, to a point where it is no longer like it is now kind of, will I say, it is now so big that it is more of an organized entity, right? I will not say it is what we call, we have what we call exits, like a startup can exit and then be acquired. Now, it could also go public. So what we call IPO, right? So a startup can go public. And at that point, it could turn into a company, for instance, right? Now, but I want to look at it from the point where it now becomes an organized entity that is executing a model, a clear model. It can now begin to create new products and services that are now part of its startup. But a startup happens to be at that point when it has not come to that organized entity and it's consistently searching for a repeatable and a scalable business model. Yes, there are revenue benchmarks. There are also number of employees that determine whether you're a company or whether you're a startup, right? All of those things, you can check them out. So you can look at maybe, they might tell you that a startup might, once you have more than 500 employees, you are no longer a startup. We are not talking about SMEs. We have small, medium, and large businesses. That's not what we are talking about now, right? Because in SME has the total revenue, has the number of employees, but here we are talking about startup and companies. So you might now begin to see that a startup can have up to 1,000 employees and they are still startup. They can have up to $1 billion in revenue and they are still startup, right? So that we don't misunderstand it with startup and SMEs. Okay, so you can check it out and also know some of the differences in terms of maybe if you get up to 5,000 employees, if you get up to 1,000 employees, no matter what, you are no longer going to be referred to as startup. Yeah. Okay, I don't think.
No, sir, we have a
any other.
question. From Omotayo. Okay, Praise is answering it. Maybe has answered. She said, is there a formula or framework for formulating the problem you are solving?
Yes, there is a framework for that. We are going to also kind of share maybe frameworks, okay, that can help you to create a problem statement for your business, right? So there are frameworks. There are frameworks that helps you create value propositions like we did in the first cohort, right? And but what we want you to do is also, like we have mentioned it, most of the things we have mentioned, also go and look at them, okay? Also go and learn more because we cannot exhaust them, right? And we are also going to be using them over and over and over. So there are frameworks that helps you in terms of your value proposition and all that, problem statements and all that, which we will keep sharing some of those resources across to see how we can leverage them. But just like we mentioned, go and create your own problem statement, make it very clear. This is a problem we are solving, very clear, just like we mentioned Airbnb. We can also mention people like Uber, also look at people like local businesses and then see the clear problem they are trying to solve. Yeah. Okay, I think we can call it a day.
So I have a question. Just very short one. Just very short one.
Okay.
Okay. You talked about the problem and solution. It could be several or just one. What if really you've really looked into it and there are like four better outstanding, like four problems and solution you're bringing?
No. Let me cut it from there. Let me cut it from there. Okay. This is a very important question, right? So no need of us moving to 4, 5, 6 problems and all that. Okay. If possible. Now look at this. Even when we say 3 problems, there must be interconnected problems. It's not as if you are solving 3 different problems. They must be interconnected, right? So you are meant to solve one problem. During the first cohort, we brought in what we call your core value proposition. So you need to focus on one thing. There is something called the power of one. So let me tell you why you cannot solve 3 problems. You, as an entrepreneur, is even complaining you don't have access to capital. You don't have access to enough team. You don't have enough this, and you are trying to solve 3 problems. It's like you marrying 3 wives, right? Or let's not put it this way. It's just like you don't have enough money and you have 10 kids, right? So that's exactly what it is. And let me also explain to you why you need to focus on one problem and solve it very well. Now, what makes you or gives you that leverage to win is when you find a need that people are truly facing, people really have, and you focus and solve it very well. You become what we call a category king. You will now become a king in solving that particular problem, right? Every other person can go and do other things, but because you are good in solving that problem, let me give you a very simple example. Let's say you want to start a salon, a barber salon, and there is one particular thing you do very well. You don't even do other things, right? You do that one very well. By the time you solve that one well, you can now begin to expand rather than you having a lot. The reason also is that the more problems you're trying to solve, the more resource that you will need to solve it. And resource here means people, time, and money. So if you're solving a whole lot of problems, you're going to need a lot of people, you're going to need a lot of money, you're going to need a lot of time. So you don't even have a lot of this. And that's why during this program, we are exposing us to the lean approach, the lean concept. So lean approach is you maximizing everything, right? Maximizing your time, maximizing your team. You have 2 people that are working with you, just have $2 and you can be able to build what you are building, right? You are not going to, you don't have access to millions of money for you to begin to solve a whole lot of problems, right? And even the big companies you see, they have mastered how to solve one problem very well. And that is why regardless of where you go to, you always tell yourself and say, you see these people, they know how to do this thing very well. Can people really say you know how to do this thing very well? It's just because of this thing that makes me keep coming here. If you are solving a whole lot of problems, it makes it difficult. And I don't want to get into this because it's a whole lot of things on its own. But during the course of the program, most of our facilitators and our conversation will be formed towards that. And we are going to see why we really have to focus on one thing and do it very, very well. Okay, so thank you very much. Linda, do we have any housekeeping? Do we have any information we want to pass? So we can call it a day. It's already 9 p.m.
Okay, there's nothing really, just that we have another meeting, no session tomorrow by 7 p.m. So
I think we moved it
it.
to Wednesday. So I think we updated it to Wednesday so that we can do Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. But tomorrow, just like Linda mentioned, we might have our mentors jump on a call. So all through the week till next week, we are going to be meeting, okay? So Linda might inform us that a mentor will be available tomorrow, right? And we'll always find, if just make sure you create that time once we say we have someone who is going to come and then learn from them. Yeah, Linda, sorry, I did not inform you that we updated it from Monday to Wednesday to give a little break for everyone. I think I did, but I did not communicate it very well. Sorry about that.
All right. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for your participation. We hope to see again.
Thank you. Go to the WhatsApp group. I think we are going to open it up, Linda.
Okay, I also sent I also sent the startup graveyard link to the WhatsApp group, so we can go through it and see why some startup failed after raising money. So I think we can continue with the conversation in our next session.
All right. Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night.
Good night, everybody.